Welcome back to the Martha Zottler Show. It is so great to talk to Johann Hare. He is the author of the book called Magic Pill, and I heard him on Honestly with Barry Weiss. And what was so fantastic about that is that I had had my own little journey with Ozempic, and it was great to hear people talk about it out loud and not act like it was some kind of secret. Welcome. How are you?
I'm so glad to be with you, Martha.
So, you wrote the book, The Magic Pill, because of a journey that you went through. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think most people listening know now, we actually do have a new drug that works in a totally new way that causes incredible amounts of weight loss. People taking these new weight loss drugs lose between 15 and 24% of their body weight. I had been overweight, most of my adult life. I realized I was turning older than my granddad ever got to be because he died of a heart attack like loads of the men in my family. And I decided, okay, I've got to investigate these drugs. I took them for a year. I'm still taking them now. I took them. I traveled all over the world. I interviewed the leading experts. And my book, Magic Pill, is really a guide to the incredible benefits of these drugs and the 12 big risks associated with these drugs. And I really hope it will help people who are thinking of taking these drugs to go through, okay, what are the risks of being obese? Which of them apply to me? What are the risks of these drugs? Which of them apply to me? And also helps prepare them for how it feels when you take the drugs, both physically and psychologically. There's a lot of, I'm curious about your experience of this, Martha, there's a lot of psychological effects when you take these drugs and begin to lose weight as well.
Well, I think that one of the things that happened to me is I had a health problem that at the end of it, they said, Martha, your weight didn't cause this problem, but your weight made it more difficult to deal with. And then I showed up as being pre-diabetic. And my husband's a primary care physician, and he said, you don't want to cross over into diabetes. So I got serious. I did use Ozempic. I lost like 20% of my body weight. I'm healthier and in better shape than I've been in my entire life. And I'm about to be 65 this year. And so I feel great. I look great. And, but I'm healthy. That was the goal for me, was to be healthy. But it was funny because when you try to talk about this, people were very judgmental about it. And so, I just say thank you when people say you look great now.
It's so interesting you say that because there's so much shame about weight and about, and I know that because I felt it as well, right? And there's so much shame around these drugs. I really think you're right that we need to break these taboos, right? What your husband told you is completely right. Obesity sadly makes over 200 known diseases and complications more likely. Diabetes is no joke, right? If you become diabetic, it knocks 15 years off your life on average, right? So when people look at the risks of these drugs, as I urge them to do in my book Magic Pill, and there's 12 significant risks, what you've got to do is compare two sets of risks. There's the risks of these drugs, which are real and, we need to think about in a lot of detail. And then there's the risks of continuing to be obese, which are enormous. And I was quite shocked by how bad they are. I think it's also worth people thinking about and preparing themselves for. So lots of things happen to you when you take these drugs that I try to explain in my book Magic Pill. There's some of them that are pretty well known. You often get nausea, things like that. That mostly goes away. For me, actually, the thing that most surprised me was how it affected me psychologically. For the first 6 months, I was losing loads of weight. I felt physically much better. But weirdly, emotionally, I actually felt quite dulled. And I looked at the science around this. And some doctors, although this is disputed, some doctors are concerned these drugs may, in a minority of people, cause depression. And you think, that's weird. What's going on there? And I think the key reason, there's a debate about this, I think the key reason, I had a real epiphany about this in a branch of KFC, actually. I was in Vegas and I was researching the murder of someone that I know for a book that I'm writing. It was very painful. And I went into this branch of KFC that I've been in 1,000 times, right? And just really on autopilot because I wasn't feeling good, I ordered what I would have ordered before I was on Ozempic. I ordered a bucket of fried chicken. And I sat there and I had one chicken drumstick and I suddenly looked at this bucket and thought, oh, I can't eat this, right? Like when you're on Ozempic, you can't overeat. You would vomit if you tried to overeat. And I kind of realized, so there are 5 different reasons why we eat. Only one of them is to feed our bodies, right? The rest are psychological. I go through them in the book. And what these drugs do is they completely interrupt your eating patterns. You feel very full, very fast, so you can't overeat. Now, that's obviously a good thing. It's why you and me have lost so much weight, Martha. But what that can also do is bring to the surface some of the deep underlying emotional factors that make many of us overeat, right? Now, that can be a good thing. There are better ways to deal with your distress than Colonel Sanders, but that can be a bumpy and difficult transition. It certainly was for me.
Well, and if you're going to have long-term weight loss, because I'm one of those people that haven't taken it for a year and a half and have been able to maintain my weight, and I don't mean that makes me better or worse than anybody else. You know what I mean? It's just
Sure.
That's for me. That's what's worked. But I do think there is this just kind of difficulty around this. And I watched the Oprah special. Did you watch the Oprah special?
Mm. Yeah, but bizarrely, this is the biggest boast I can make in my whole life. Oprah is my friend, which is slightly surreal. Every now and then she texts me, and I'm always like, or emails me and my friend, and I'm always like, shut up, everyone, Oprah needs me.
So, I mean, and I would feel that way too, but I think she didn't talk enough about the cost, because it seems to me, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it seems to me if the drugs have been around as long as people say they have, the prices ought to be better. And if weight is such a huge threat to our overall health, that medicine ought to be more invested in us being healthy. And I am starting to be a conspiracy theorist, Johan.
Well, it's not a conspiracy theory. The pharmaceutical industry employs an army of lobbyists who rig the prices. As you can tell from my weird Downton Abbey accent, I'm British. I live half the year in Britain, half the year in the US. I pay a fifth in Britain for what I pay in the US. So you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist. You just have to understand how Americans are ripped off every day by the drug companies, and there should be a huge anger about that. There's going to be a change in this over time, as I write about in the book, because 8 years from now, Ozempic comes out of patent, so anyone will be able to make it, any reputable company. And so it'll be a daily pill. It'll be $1 a day. I would predict that, at the moment, 47% of Americans want to take these drugs. I think it will actually be even more than that. So we are at the brink of an incredible revolution. Weight is about to be under our control much more than it has ever been up to now, right? And that's going to transform lots of things. If you're overweight or obese, you are not a failure. Do not feel ashamed. It's going to bring benefits. The subtitle of my book, Magic Pill, is The Extraordinary Benefits and Disturbing Risks of the New Weight Loss Drugs, right? And I really think we need to take a beat to think about both of them. So in terms of the extraordinary benefits, we know these drugs reduce your risk of a heart attack or stroke by 20% if you take them and you were overweight at the start, right? That's incredible. For someone like me, my granddad died of a heart attack, my uncle died of a heart attack, my dad has terrible heart problems with his heart. That could save my life. There are other things that are really disturbing risks. I am really worried about young girls with eating disorders who are getting hold of these drugs. One of the leading eating disorders experts in the country, Dr. Kimberly Dennis, said to me that these drugs are rocket fuel for eating disorders, and she's right. We need to urgently regulate it. At the moment, basically pretty much anyone can get it by going on Zoom. You see a doctor on Zoom, they're meant to check your weight. How are they doing that on Zoom? Obviously they aren't. We need to change the rules urgently so that you can only get these drugs if you see a doctor in person who checks you are actually overweight, right? That if we don't do that, I really worry, in addition to the incredible benefits for people like me, we could have an opioid-like level of death toll of young girls who take these drugs and, are able to... Because when you take these drugs, if you take a high dose, it just amputates your appetite, right? You've had this effect, Martha,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Your appetite gets dialed down so much. Imagine you were taking an even higher dose, you wouldn't want to eat at all, which, of course, is what people with eating disorders, because they've absorbed these really disturbing ideas about women and their bodies. I mean, I know there are some men in the situation as well, obviously, but it's mostly women. They want to starve themselves. So we've really got to think about these drugs in a balanced way. It's a tool. It's like fire. Fire is a great tool if I use it to warm my house. It's a terrible tool if I use it to burn down your house.
Absolutely. Johan Hari, the book is Johan Hari, the book is The Magic Pill. I thank you so much for writing this, because we've got to have these discussions. And people, you got to go out and buy it. We appreciate you being with us today. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate talking to you. And thank you for your honesty and candor about this, Martha. It makes a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much.